Hello and welcome back to Turf Moorhouse TV. It's been quite a while actually, but it's nice to be back. Obviously finding time to get some video content out as well. But this is a bit of a different one. We're not actually going to be speaking about match previews or things like that. We're just going to be speaking about the things that have been going on around the club and the club in general, not just focusing on the game. And that's why I've got these two lovely little legends above me, NATALIE Bromley of the NONAYNEVER podcast, and Andrew and his array of skills and his editing prowess is in the building as well. But no, thank you very much to both of you. First up, NATALIE, I'll come to you. Tell people where they can check out all the NONAYNEVER stuff if they haven't already.
Indeed. Well, hopefully you do know who NONAYNEVER is. I feel like I'm voting with the competition here. NONAYNEVER is the original fan podcast, and
we all shit out the same arsehole. It's right.
We do. It's absolutely fine. And listen, we started back in 2010, and at the time, football content was a very, very small community, and we were at the time the only Burnley community that there was. Fast forward 13 years, and there is now so much fan-led content on there, and I'm such a massive fan. We've got YouTube channels, we've got Twitch streamers, we've got TikTok stars, we've got podcasts, we've got other podcasts, we've got YouTube channels, and I love it. I think it's absolutely great. The more the merrier for me. I've never really understood rivalry, and I've never really understood this desire to be the best and the only ones. It's like the bigger that Burnley football can grow, the better, and I'm all wholehearted. Hence why I had absolutely no problem jumping on your channel when you asked me to. I would be delighted to. I just think it's just there's an appetite for fan-led football content. And I think major broadcasters are realising that, because they're just not committing the enough resource to really get to know the clubs that they're following, particularly in the AFL. So they're starting to rely on fans. We're predominantly a podcast, but it has now moved because it's 2024 and you have to, if you want to stay relevant, we've moved on to visual on YouTube. But if you basically just search NONAYNEVER in your usual podcast provider, you will find us, and all of our handles and all of our social medias are all NONAYNEVER. So there you go.
And the link to the YouTube channel and the Twitter/X page is in the description of the video, so people please do go there.
I'm still saying Twitter.
Yeah, I always say Twitter still. And same with Andrew and his you'll always be a Claret page. Obviously his Twitter link is below, but again, tell people what you do with that and your obsession with Burnley Football Club.
Yeah, so I'm staying with you two. I refuse to call it X, it's staying as Twitter, but yeah, basically nick pictures that the club put on and edit them into fan posters, really.
I love the honesty. Just nick pictures.
Well, what else can I do? It's the only way to do it. So, but yeah, just make pictures really of Burnley players and the team and stuff, trying to, grow out a bit more from just Twitter. And I'm on Instagram, Facebook, got a YouTube channel where I've put the odd video on and stuff. But
good for
yeah,
you.
Just trying to make a bit of Burnley content, like NATALIE says, the more the merrier, and I'm just going to make some as well.
I'm pretty sure I used to have one of your player ones as one of our screensavers. Might have been. Did you do one for Sam Vokes back in the day?
Maybe a minute. I've got on this computer.
Sure
I've got about.
Not that I'm obsessed with Sam Vokes, but
I was telling Justine the other day when she weren't in the meeting thing. I said, she went, "Oh, how was it?" I said, "Well, me and NATALIE were having a moment fangirling over Dean Marnie walking past."
But do you know what? That was then superseded, which we'll go on to, by the fact that at the end of the game, they grabbed us because the women's team was still training. So me and Riggers, me and Charlotte, go down and watch them, and I was like, oh! So yeah, I was like, Dean who? Sorry, I'm like, Bex is there and Leia was there, and I was just like, but anyway, sorry, digress. But yes,
it's all right. It's all right. That's what we're leading into anyway. We are going to start by speaking about the women's team. Obviously, you've been a big, massive advocate for this, NATALIE, as well. Absolutely smashing it this season. Narrowly missed out the season before. We've had change of manager. Rebecca's come in. She's done an amazing job. 2 games in hand over the leaders, Newcastle. Into the final of the LFA Senior Cup final. Could we win it back to back?
Yes,
we definitely can. I mean, I mean, the future of women's football and how much it's progressed from back in the day to now being part of the club, what we saw as well. I mean, what's your, twist on things? Obviously, we heard from Lola the other day, but what was your twist on how
Lola's
things
great.
are?
It's nice to be where we are now in terms of women's football fans, because it's what we've been striving for many, many years. But I almost don't want to forget the challenge and the battle that we've had for decades, because that is still needed to maintain the fight, because there is still work that needs to be done. It's interesting actually hearing Serena Wiegman talking about this, and that she's actually pushing for it to slow down a little bit, because she's quite concerned about burnout, she's concerned about injuries, and she's concerned about the appetite, the game not being able to provide and develop as quick as the new set of fans are consuming the game. It's the fastest growing game sport in the world right now. And I think one of the most telling examples that I can give you of just the significance of the women's game is that the US women's team are no longer the dominant force that they used to be. 10 years ago, it was US. They were just so far the market leaders, and they still are an incredible system out there. And most of our women's players go to the US at some point in their careers to train and go through university there and college and be coached by the best. But over the last 10 years, the world has caught up, and the investment that's being made across Europe and across Asia and South America in their women's teams, led by clubs such as FC Lyon and FC Barcelona, and in the UK, definitely Chelsea, Arsenal, has really seen it take off. And these women are now absolute superstars. In terms of Burnley's progress, let's bring it back to home. We've always struggled, and one of the things we've struggled with is that actually our East Lancs rivals were one of the leading providers of women's football, and I have to be supportive of that. Taking aside club rivalry, they have done so much for Northwest football. Kira Walsh, the world's most expensive footballer, started at Blackburn. Ella Toone started at Blackburn. They had an absolutely fantastic women's team. Unfortunately, with much the challenges that they've got down the road with the current ownership, investment has gone down, and their women's team is falling away. I interviewed Gemma Donnelly not so long ago for a BBC podcast. She's recently quit her role there, and she was talking about the rise of Burnley, and I genuinely think that Burnley are taking over in the Northwest as being the number one provider outside of your cities, your Manchester United, your Liverpools, etc., as a really legitimate pathway for some women to pursue a career in football. I know Jay Bradford, who was our manager last season, was desperate for the job, and she did a brilliant job of trying to. She nearly got us. We were so close. We were one result away from winning the title last year. Now, would we have got through the playoffs? Probably not. MK Dons, who ended up going up to the Championship, were a pretty formidable force. But Rebecca, who's come in, I always really struggle to pronounce her surname, Bex, as we affectionately call her in the club.
Yeah.
She's got the caliber that we've needed. She has got not just the coaching ability, but she's got the intelligence, and she's got the knowledge of the pathways and the learning programs that you need to put in place. For those of you who don't understand women's football, the pathway is the FA recognised pathway up to the Lionesses. And if you do not have recognised steps and benchmarks for each phase, each age group that the girls come through, you're not going to be able to attract the right players. We have not had that, and we've still not 100% got it in place yet. But with Beck's knowledge and guardianship, we are starting to put those plans in place. And having American owners really helps, because Americans are very passionate about women's football. So, yeah, it is all going very well for Burnley FC women.
It is, and it's not even just in terms of on the pitch. Like you said there, off the pitch, the infrastructure's changing. We were asking a lot of questions recently about, how Burnley can go out there, not just as a brand, but promoting the women's game. It's like our own pause then, sticking a bit. But yeah, you know, word of mouth going to these games. Obviously, a lot of people will be, you know, Burnley fans in particular, will be annoyed at the fact that we're playing these games in Leyland. But, you know, it's one of them things, like we found out, it's about the floodlights have to be to certain regulations, the pitch has to be to certain dimensions, etc. Which is something we're obviously going to be in a battle with. And I think Lola mentioned that, didn't she, about Blackburn have always been seen as, you know, oh, that's their ground first and Burnley use it second. But for you, the ultimate goal for Burnley women's, from your point of view, would be what?
What, in terms of the pitch and the ground?
In terms of the future of Burnley women's, how far can you see the progression go? Yeah,
WSL. Yeah, it has to be. I think. Listen, this isn't just indicative of women's football. It's not indicative of football in general. This is indicative of sport. Yeah. The nature of sport, what is it? It's a competition. Anybody who plays any sport at any level, their aim is to get to the top, to get to the highest level they can, which is why we, as a club, as painful as it is, it's why the men's seniors are striving towards the Premier League. The women's seniors are striving towards the WSL. Of course they are. We recognise that there are a lot of steps to get us there, but that has to be your aim, because if you're not aiming for that, and then once you get into the WSL, you're aiming for the Champions League. You're aiming to get as many of your first team players into their international games so they can go to World Cups and Euros, or you know the African and the South American equivalent. If you're not aiming to do that, then what are you doing? I don't think, and I actually really like the fact that our board are on board with that. That's a terrible pun. They are definitely on board with that. I think logistically, all women's football teams want to see their women playing in the towns that they play in, and eventually in the same grounds. I know that there are some clubs that are able to see all of their senior and junior and women's teams all playing on the same pitch. We're not there yet. But of course, wouldn't it be an amazing thing if our women's seniors and men's seniors both played at Turf Moor in the Premier League and the WSL? Why would you not want that?
100%. I mean, Andrew, what's your take on it? Obviously, not a lot said from Burnley fans' perspective on the women's game, but it's nice to get that perspective out there and, you know, push the women's game onto people a little bit. I mean, how have you seen it looking from the outside?
To be honest, so I've not really paid much attention, hold my hands up, to the Burnley women's team specifically. Obviously, you know, things come up on Twitter where you see how they're doing and you think, oh, brilliant. You know, at the end of the day, it's still Burnley. You know, even if I'm not sat there actively watching, I want Burnley to do well. Like Natalie said, you know, you want the team to do as well as they can. If it's the men's, if it's the women's, if it's the academy, you want them at the highest level. And ideally, you want them all playing at that ground. I think if I had been growing up and the ladies team had been playing at the Turf, I probably would have seen them more and taken more attention to them. So I think the fact that we're now, you know, when the Women's World Cup run, it's on BBC and ITV and things, and you're getting that, it's getting out there and people are being able to watch it. And I think the fact that that's now happening, it can only be a good thing. And like I say, if we can get them playing at Turf, happy days. You know, the more they'll play at that ground, the more people will go see them.
Yeah,
the bigger it can go. Which
3,000 last year, Andrew. Yeah. We played the last home game of the season, last game of the season against Liverpool Feds at Turf last season, and with very little notice, we got just over 3,000 fans in there, which was phenomenal.
Yeah, and like I say, growing up as a kid, you know, if I'd been able to go see the women's team, even if it were local, like it's in, am I right in saying it's in Leyland?
Yeah, it's at the FA ground in Leyland, which is a fantastic facility, by the way. Yeah, and I think that's one thing I would say to people. I understand the emotional pull of wanting Burnley to play in Burnley, but whilst that's not possible because the facilities are just not there in Burnley, the facilities we do have at the FA ground in Leyland are spectacular, and they are really, really helping to develop our current women's team to be as successful as they are.
That was something I never knew. I didn't realise that they had to be certain Obviously, I know football grounds have to be a certain regulations, but it never crossed my mind. It was always in my head, why can they not just play at the turf? But now you've explained that, I can understand why, and it's a bit more right. Okay, hopefully someday they will be able to do so. But
yeah, I think the point about the pitch, Andrew, is not necessarily that the regulations don't let them play on the turf. They can play on the pitch. The problem with the women's team playing on the first team pitch is exactly the same as it is for the under-21s and the development squads for the men's side. It's about the quality of the pitch itself. It's about protecting the pitch, because ultimately we have Premier League regulations that have to be met for the quality of the pitch. If they are breached, that's quite a hefty financial fine. So commercially, that has to take precedent, because you can't be running your business into the ground by having to pay fans every week. That's why the under-21s don't play there, and it's why the women don't play there. The actual pitch at Turf Moor would pass the benchmark for the women's FA to be able to play on them. It's about science developing so that pitches that the football players play on can withstand back-to-back games every other day, because you've got men's on Saturday, women's on Sunday. That's another thing as well. The women's football teams have to start looking at their fixture schedulings, because women's play at 2 o'clock on a Sunday, or they play at 7 o'clock at night on a Sunday. It's going to be more accessible as a sport. You've got to get the spectators. So it's more about that, Andrew, than it is. I guess the point we were making about regulations is we couldn't just say, right, okay, we're going to play all our games at Burnley College, so at least we're round the corner from the turf. That's what doesn't match up to the regulations.
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I've grown up around the women's side of football. My stepmom was goalkeeper for Burnley before it became part of the club, and it was just, separate. And I'd go to these games and things like that, and I always thought, why isn't this as big as the men's game, even growing up then? But you always felt that divide. You always felt that it wasn't equal, really.
Yeah.
That was just some sort of hobby more than it was a job. And I think that's what we're trying to work towards. Like you say, Lola said it the other day, didn't she? That these people have been working their jobs, doing the 9 to 5s or whatever hours they're doing, and then coming in and doing training at like 8, 9 at night. And you're thinking, wow, like if that's not the mindset of a professional, then what is? It's huge. It's huge. But I want to talk to you, Natalie, about the last game, the 6 goal through that. Just what a performance! What a performance to get us to the final.
Yeah, it definitely was. And I think there's been, our girls have been on an upward trajectory for about 2 or 3 seasons now, where since ALK came in, an investment has started being made, and we brought Lola in as head of women's football. And we've got the infrastructure, got them into Barnfield as well, and got them playing. So every single season they've got stronger and stronger. I genuinely believe this. I think the coach, Bex, is an incredible technical coach, and her coaching staff are unreal, and they're implementing a winning mentality into them. And one of the things we learned not so long ago is that because the women now train as well in the same facilities as the men, and everything's being brought under one umbrella, and there's been a shared vision in terms of style of play and training techniques. We learned on last Wednesday that Bex and VK are often sat in discussions with each other, sharing knowledge, and it's like, how is that not an incredible thing? And then that is filtering into the training sessions and strategy. And we've got a lot more clinical in our play. We're a lot more efficient in the way that we pass the ball. It's a lot more positive. We are adopting the same passing game that the men's seniors and the men's divisions are. We are playing out from the back. I've seen that. We did not do that last year at all, but our current keeper's an outstanding keeper. She used to be in a Lucy Farrell. Not Lucy Farrell, Kirsty Lavelle used to be in, she was a WSL player, and we convinced her to drop down a couple of divisions to help and she's loving it here. She has an ability and a training to be able to pass out from the back. The defenders are getting more confident. Not many women's sides, and bear in mind we're tier 3, so that's the equivalent of the men's League 1. Men's League 1 are not playing out from the back, and it's the same with the women. They don't have that technical ability yet, so we are just running all over the division, and I just think it's a real joy to watch. I'm enjoying it immensely, and I'm kind of annoyed immensely that Newcastle decided to turn their women's team pro this year, because without them we would be a storm towards the Championship. And actually, a quick reminder for those of you who don't know, up until this season, you've got the Premier League Northern Division, the Premier League Southern Division, which are tier 3 levels. It's one up and one down. So one team used to get relegated from the Championship, which is the same equivalent as the men's Championship, and the winner of the Northern and the Southern Premier Leagues would enter a playoff, and the winner of that would go down. So the winner, it's been the Southern winner for the past 4 or 5 years that's gone up from our league. Wolves, Derby, Nottingham Forest have all won over the past few years. Forest, I think, have won 3 times in the last 6 years.
Yeah, I'm going to say Forest have had quite a dominant.
They have. And they've lost the playoff every single time. So they are stuck in league in the Premier Division, in the tier 3. That has now been lifted this year. 2 are going down from the Championship, and the winner of both are going up. So if we can beat Newcastle to win the league this year, we will be playing in the Championship next season, which is huge because the standard changes, the money changes, the investment changes, and the players that we can attract changes as well. So fingers crossed.
It is, and Matt will have a bigger task on his hands to say no to Lola when that comes around.
She's not somebody she's not somebody who you can say no to. I think if anybody is interested in learning more about our women's team, if you search, and I'm sorry, this is a shameless plug. Last season I did a podcast for BBC Sport called Balls to It, and it was a female-led football podcast. And our very last episode that we did of season 1 was an interview with Lola, who's the head of women's football at BFC. It's still available if you search for it on your podcast provider. I was literally, for an hour, she just talked about women's football. She's one of the most inspirational women who you will ever come across. And the fact we have her in charge at Burnley. And if that doesn't get you on the Burnley FC women train, then nothing else will. She's incredible. So for no other reason other than if it can get us a small fraction of new fans to Burnley FC women, I'd be delighted. So please check it out.
100%. Please, people, do go check that out because I think Lola's been quite in the public eye as well. She recently did a documentary, didn't she? With is it like with Ian Wright and a few other people
Correct.
As well?
Yeah.
So please do go check it out because it is very insightful and it gives you so much more knowledge and understanding of what's going on a day-to-day basis. I mean, for someone to give up a lawyer's job to work in women's football,
she's living my life. I'm so every time I speak to her. So I'm a lawyer as well by trade, so we have exactly the same background. So when she was practicing law, corporate law, she does exactly the same job as me. And then she left her job and went to pursue a career in not just in football, but in women's football. And I'm like, this is what I've been trying to do for 14 years. How am I still a lawyer and only doing a community podcast? So, oh well.
No, it's good though. I love the progression of what's going on, and like I say, it's not even a TBC. The good times are going to come. You can see it happening. The trajectory is just going upwards.
Big game on Sunday. I'm going on
massive.
Sunday. We're away at Forest, so I'm going down to Nottingham to watch. I can't wait. I'll be. They might kick me off the sidelines actually because I'll be a bag of nerves on the sidelines. I think as Dan mentioned earlier on, Newcastle are kind of buying the league this year. It's difficult. At the beginning of this season, Newcastle decided that they wanted a women's team, and they basically made their women's team pro at that tier 3 level. I think I heard that they've invested about 2.6 million just this first half of the season alone in their women's team, which is. It's like it's not a level playing field, but we're still in there. They are currently top of the league, but they faltered last week. They lost against Forest in itself, so we are now second in the league. We've got 2 games in hand over them. If we win both of those,
and unbeaten, the only unbeaten team in the league.
Correct. Yes. Up until that point, Newcastle and us had not lost a single game. There's only us who have not lost a single game. We've got to go away to Forest, who sit in third, who did beat Newcastle, so it's going to be a difficult game. But if we win that, we will win our game in hand because it's, I think, second bottom. I think it's Liverpool Feds again. We take the lead, and essentially the Newcastle game will be Newcastle at home will probably be the title decider if that happens. So I will be spamming you all with women's football when it comes to that Newcastle game. But I'll try and post on Sunday. So good stuff.
Can't wait for it. Can't wait.
Absolutely.
Should be fun. I know, obviously, cautious of time with yourself, so I'll get your thoughts on it. But the strategic partnership with Dundee, obviously, that's massive for us as well. I know people were like, you've partnered with a little Scottish club. What's all that about? But what's your generalisation of it in depth?
I think one of the things that's impressed me about the club and this board going forward at the moment is finding ways to do things economically and efficiently and keep a churn of players going. And I think that's something that we've seen coming out of the club at the moment. A strategic partnership such as this enables us to have a ready-made club to send players out to without question. We can control where they're playing, how many games they get, what their development is. We can get players back from them at the same time. There is also a pathway to other experiences and other, particularly with our junior players, different experiences being away from home. And I just think, I don't understand why there would be a negativity around it. It's about footballers are expensive, and buying players every season, if we're going to keep this squad, the senior men's squad, churning over and trying to make a profit on them, we're going to have to sell players every single season. We're going to have to buy unknown players or young players who are in the development stages. And if we have a team that we can send them out to readily to get the experience, it just fast tracks development. It fast tracks progress, and I just think it will be good for the team. So I'm a fan.
Massively. I mean, your thoughts on it, Andrew, as well. We've had Marcel Lewis be there recently. Currently, at the moment, we've got Dara Costello and Owen Dodgson. Let's not forget former Claret Adam Legsdins, who didn't. I think he probably had a shirt with his name on, never wore it, but hey ho.
I've genuinely forgotten all about him.
Yeah.
one of the legends, isn't he? Sure, I've got a picture of him somewhere.
Have you done a graphic on him? It was probably just the one.
My screensaver.
I have 2 or 3. But yeah, like Natalie said, I can't see any negatives with it really. It's a good place for us to send, like you say, Costello and Dodgson out on loan, getting game time, which they're not going to get at the turf. Can't really see a negative with it. I think a lot of people at the moment seem to have an issue with Pace and the rest of ALK, and any little thing that we do seems to be something bad that they've done. But yeah, it can't be a negative thing. Like I said, that we've got an eye there we can seek out talent that they've got and say, hey, come on, send them our way. We'll give them you back on loan. We've got somewhere to send people. And it gives me a Scottish team to root for because I can't stand Celtic or Rangers.
That important criteria for every season, Andrew. Which Scottish team am I going to support this year? Not something I've thought of, but I might get on board with that. I will message you and let you know who I decide.
When we've no games on and you've got Sky Sports News on and Queen at South are winning 1-0, and come on, I need a team. I need to be in there.
They couldn't be in any more Burnley team, could they? 2-0 up against Hearts the other night at half time. Lost 3-2.
No wonder that.
They probably got Burnley. But it is one of them things. No, Natalie, I really appreciate it. You coming on, obviously. No, it's all right. It's not a problem. Again, promote your wonderful socials.
Yes, please do come and join us if you are. We've been around for 14 years, so you probably would have heard from us even if you don't subscribe. NONAYNEVER, the original Burnley FC podcast, which is now very much welcoming a family of content creators across the board. Welcome on board, everybody. Our socials are consistent. Just type NONAYNEVER. If you go to your usual podcast provider, you will find us, and our YouTube channel is also NONAYNEVER. So please come and say hello. That would be very nice. We like speaking to people and we like new friends. So yeah, all good. Thanks for having me, Dan, and thanks for covering the women's game. And I'll appreciate it.
No, thank you for covering the women's game. You're a lot more insightful than I am, anyway.
You're very welcome. Thanks, everyone.
Cheers. Take care.
Bye.
Bye. So there we go. I mean, it's always nice to get like an insight onto stuff that, like you say, when you're not really that clued up yourself. I mean, you know it to a degree, but not fully compass mentis with it.
Well, I see it come up on Twitter. I knew they'd won 6-0 the other day. No idea, it was a cup match or how important it were. Didn't know who we were playing on Sunday, but I'll definitely be keeping an eye on score for that now.
100%. 100%. I mean, I'll just go back to that strategic partnership. We're talking about obviously the fact of loans, sending players out for development. But I think from what I read in the article, which I did have on my phone, but all of a sudden it's now changed to my camera roll. Funnily enough, don't know why my phone's done that. But like you said, the fact that it's a strategic partnership isn't just down to the development as well. Obviously, promoting player development is key between the two clubs. But it's also about forming an alliance, isn't it? Bolstering relationships with others. Also, going over there, sending our ground staff over there so that they can learn different aspects, work with each other on community projects as well. It's almost like you're welcoming in a younger sibling to the family a little bit. And that's no disrespect to Dundee fans at all. But obviously, as the Premier League club, I'm not saying they're not because they are in their own Scottish division. I'm trying to work my way out of this, but the all's getting bigger. But you know what I mean? Obviously, it's not just on the pitch that matters. We're working with them on situations off the field as well.
Yeah, it's almost like, I know we've got like the fan relationship that we've got with Helmond, and that sort of seems to be coming up a little bit between us and with ALK and Pace and their fans coming over and us going over there and the board and stuff. And it's almost like we're doing it a bit closer to home, and we're doing it, what is it, 2 hours up the road to Dundee or something like that, 2-3 hours.
Yeah.
We're doing it close to home so that, like I said, the groundsman can go up there, Vinny can go up there on a weekend and, watch. Obviously, when we're not playing, he can do a bit of scouting and see if he can learn off their manager, the same as we can, he can learn off Vinny. I think, like you said, I can't see any negatives to it, to be honest.
No, it should be good for the future of us as a club and them. It's a bit like the way I saw it when it was announced was almost like Football Manager-esque. When you ask for an affiliation with a club and things like that. It sort of struck me in that structure. But speaking of affiliation, developing players and things like that, one thing I will ask is your thoughts on this season so far, because obviously from the men's game perspective, I know a lot of people were like, VAR, Premier League, get us back to the Championship. It's been daunting, but we are 2 years ahead of a project. How have you seen it?
I see it from both sides. Like you say, we are 2 years ahead of a project, so it's like you've got to keep grounded and understand where we are. But at the same time, we knew we were promoted in January last year. It wasn't we hadn't won the league, we weren't promoted, but I think in everyone's head we knew we were going up. So I thought that in the time, when we signed Obafemi, we got Foster. I thought they were the signings for getting us ready for the Premier League. And then obviously Foster had his 8 weeks, was it? He was out with his mental health, which no one can argue with letting him have that. The player comes first, the person comes first, let him take his time. But I'm a bit surprised we haven't seen more of Obafemi. Again, I know he was out earlier in the season, but so it's a bit of both really, because when we came off the Newcastle game after we'd been relegated, I think it was the reset that we needed. And walking back to the car, me and the missus were saying, oh God, we're relegated. And it wasn't the heartbreak and the down feeling that we'd felt last time, because we knew that we needed that refresh. And then last season, obviously, was just something else. I don't think you can argue with me. It'll be one of the best seasons you'll have ever seen. So I think the fact that we've come from that season where we beat them lot twice and won the league at their grounds, which is never going to be lived down, to a season where we're not doing that well. We're not seeing Benson play. We're not seeing Zarauri play. There's no Nathan Teller. Muric has been dropped. The fan favourite players aren't there. And I think going from that to, if we were storming the league now, if we were in 10th, say, I don't think there'd be the questions of where's Benson, where's the Rowley, what's happened there, because we're doing well. But I think because we're so far down, there are those questions. And yeah, I don't know how to answer it, to be honest, because I hate VAR and I hate the Premier League. And even when we won it, my missus' dad was every week he was going, "Do you still not want to go up?" And I said, "No, I want to win the league. I want the trophy. I want the parade. I want to do all that. But then I want to play Championship again next season." Because, I mean, none of us are looking forward to next Wednesday. No one's looking forward to next Wednesday. Don't look forward to when we play United. Don't look forward to when we play Liverpool. Don't look forward to.
I was going to say our next four away at City, home to Fulham, away at Liverpool, at home to Arsenal. I mean, you're a bit like the way this season's gone. Yeah. It's more hope and desperation than anything else.
We got promoted, and the first thing me and my dad said was, first home game will be City. First game of the season will be City at home. We said, right, so we can write that one off. There's 20 teams in the Premier League. There's 17, well, including us, there's 7 teams that you ignore. We're not going to get results from. And then it's the other 13. And it just, I don't like it. I just don't like it. I'd much rather play in the Championship where Hull can beat United, top team, and then they can get beaten by a weak team the week after, and it's just so much better. Yeah,
it is massively. I mean, Andy says it there. What specifically would the benefit to Burnley FC via ARK being linked to Dundee? I think it's the fact that Dundee are owned by American ownership just as much as we are, so there's sort of a common ground on what they want to do with the clubs, which is great in itself. Also, the benefit is if we can get players to go up there and play, and I'm not saying that there's going to be players that are going to be like, "Oh, of course I want to go and play for Dundee. Of course I want to go up there," especially if they're going to be getting off a sustained English football with League One and League Two clubs. It's because you're getting your hard knocks in those divisions. I think there was a few people recently in the press, former players, saying that in fact, it wasn't even former players. There was a manager in Scotland saying, "Why would you come up here and play football? I'm managing up here, and my team are basically dog shit." He said, and that the standards were better. And I'm not disrespecting any standards, but I think we've got to also look at we are trying to regain that academy status. We are trying to not even so much the players that are on the fringe. I think sometimes it's going to be those players from the under-18s that you've offered them a new contract, and said, "Oh yeah, we think you've got the potential to become a first teamer, so we're going to send you up there where you'll get your kicks and knocks and sort of learn the physicality of the game."
Yeah,
and I think that's got to be probably what it is.
Yeah, I think as well, if you look at the 2 lads that we've got on loan there at the moment with Dodgson and Costello. Dodgson in pre-season was phenomenal, and it looked like he was going to be, the Ian Matson replacement and our new left back. And the fact that we've then sent him out on loan, it's not a bad thing because he's getting the game time that he wouldn't be getting down here. Same as Costello. Start last season, he were playing. I think did he play the first 4 games or something before we let him come on? And he wasn't a bad player. He wasn't doing too bad. But as soon as we brought Benson in, and then obviously Teller comes in and Zarauri comes in, and there were no space for him. So let him go out on loan. And I mean, we've turned into Winger FC this year, haven't we? So we don't need another winger, but let him go and play. Let him get the game time that he needs to develop, because he's still on our books. He's still one of our players. And next season he might rip up the Championship. So I can't see any negatives. I really can't.
No. I think you said it there in terms of what where we are next season, etc. Transfer business. Obviously, we are in the midst of the transfer merry-go-round. January, probably one of the toughest windows to get, especially when you are where you are in the division. But we have brought in one in David Datro Fofana, obviously coming on loan from Chelsea. I mean, was at Union Berlin. Record wasn't all that great, but Chelsea wants him to get Premier League experience, which is totally understandable as the parent club. But we've also got our own out there, haven't we, as well? Scott Twan's gone out to Bristol City. The one that you've obviously already mentioned as well, that's Manuel Benson. I think every single fan would be like, I don't care what the issue is. I don't care what's going on. Just pick him.
See, right, so I've got my opinion on this, and I haven't said it because I don't want to upset anyone. But last season, he scored the goal at Ewood.
Yep.
And the amount of goals that he scored last season, he helped to win us the league. There's no doubt about that. There's not a chance in hell that I want to see him leave. I do not want to see him leave, and I will be picking him week in, week out if he's fit and he can stay fit. But he's not being played. There's obviously a reason he's not being played. So let him go out on loan. Let him go somewhere, and again, get that game time. I think I'm someone who's quite a sentimental person as well. If you told me Sam Vokes are trying for Burnley tomorrow, I'd be like, oh yeah, get in. You know, he's absolutely brilliant, but he's not good enough to play for us anymore. And I think we as a fan base at the moment have still got that bit of sentimentality, especially towards Rory and Benson, who were two of our star players from last season. I'd say Benson even more because he scored that goal at Ewood. But when he's played, I know he's not played that many games this season, and the same as Rory. When they haven't really impressed much more than Mike Tresser. You know, it just doesn't. I don't want him to go because of everything that he did. And if he's going out on loan, I can accept it. But he shouldn't be sat there rotting on our bench. If he's not going to play, let him go play. Same as Scott Twine. I love Twine to bits. Again, he didn't play much last season. I'm absolutely heartbroken that he's not in our starting 11 week in, week out. But at least he's out there getting to play. And I feel like that for any of them.
Yeah, no, Henry says here, and hope you're well, Henry, as well, says, I can definitely understand the uneasiness within the club. You only got to look at the Teller business. That was a shocker. But to be honest, the Teller one was difficult because we was dealing with Southampton, but wasn't. The transfer with Teller was very awkward. It was Southampton had hired an intermediary to deal with the transfers. So they've said X amount for that player, then accept it. But when we were doing our business regarding Teller, they were playing hardball. And they were just basically being the arseholes that Southampton were being, which is probably why we've been a little bit like, you want Manuel Benson? Are you taking the piss? You have the cheek to come to us now and expect us to go, oh, you won't give us your winger, but here's ours. It's like, it's not... Yeah, it's like having the best shiny in the schoolyard, isn't it? When we're all younger, and them going, oh well, I want it. Tough shit. You made your bed, lying at Southampton. I mean, Leeds would be a very good place for Benson to go to, I think, because Leeds is one of those clubs that you are going to get impact week in, week out. Physicality is key. I think he'll learn quite a bit, and let's not forget he is 26, 27. So if he does go there, which from media reports, it's looking likely. I mean, nobody likes Leeds, but I think everyone will think, I like Manuel Benson. So does that mean I kind of have to like him?
I'd take it over Southampton, to be honest. And
yeah.
This is the thing. Like, I know obviously Koleosho's out, and we think he's going to be out for the rest of the season. Orderbert's now taking his place on the left wing. Would you say when they're both fit, Koleosho or Benson on the right wing, trying him on that wing? When we've got Orderbert and Koleosho, which we're keeping when we get relegated, no matter what, because I'm not letting anyone else have them too. When we've got them fit, where does Benson go? It'd be brutal to drop Koleosho when he's been so good. It'd be brutal to drop Orderbert when he's been so good. Where does he fit in? He doesn't. And again, like I say, I'm a sentimental person. If you tell me Cohen is signed tomorrow, I'd be happy. But neither of them are fit every single game, and neither of them can stay fit for a full season. So it just doesn't make sense to me. If we've got options in that position, as much as I'd love to keep him, you've got to let him go.
Definitely, definitely. Obviously, and like you said, Wingers FC, one position we have struggled in, and we struggled in it from the first window with all the Maatsen hoo-ha. He's coming, he's not. He's apparently in Chelsea's plans. January he's not. Well, he's coming to Burnley, and then all of a sudden, left field is now at Dortmund. I'd like to say we had a hand in that for that development, but it's one of them. Obviously, left back is a pivotal place at the moment. Obviously, Charlie Taylor, a lot of people asking those questions that he wasn't going to be good enough in that company style of play, but he has made left back his own position again. However, he is injured, obviously, so we are looking bleak. I think we've played Dara O'Shea there. I mean, Alder Keel's played there as well. Something's got to give. Yeah. So we are literally scraping the bargain bin probably to try and find a left back willing to come in, but good enough and strong enough. I mean, that is a position that clearly is needed, isn't it?
Yeah. We definitely, like I say, we've all known that we've needed a left back. Obviously, company knew last season we needed left back. That's why we got Maatsen in. So when we've known that we were getting promoted in January, we've not looked for one. Then it's got to the summer and we've gone back in for Maatsen and it's not happened, or we've just not gone for one, or we've left it to the last minute and thought Maatsen's the one. Then, like you say, he's not been in the plans, so we've had to make shift. With Charlie being there or Delclar or Shea. And then we've got to January and we've got less than a week left of the transfer window and we've still not got a left back when, again, Owen Dodgson's up in Scotland playing for Dundee, which, it's another one of them where I can see it from both sides. But yeah, we desperately need a left back. I think if we are only to make one more signing, it has to be that left back. And again, I'm not against getting Cornet in as a left wing back.
Well, who knows? Who knows? Where else do you see then Burnley strengthening? If you were in VK's boots right now, which I'm guessing would be quite big, I'd probably like to say. Where would you be looking to strengthen? I think obviously a lot of people will question the fact of, yes, we've just brought in a striker, but with Foster sort of taking it a game by game basis, what do we do there? Is there somebody else we need in the middle of the park?
I think
what's your thoughts?
I think really I don't know what to say because he's not really a cam like central attacking, but the Amdouni position. I think he's a player who frustrates me because he's so good. He's so technically good, and then he's just does one thing and he's just not, and it's just so frustrating. And I think if we had someone in that position who can, challenge him for that place, I think he'd sharpen up a little bit, and those moments where he's not quite as good will turn into the brilliance that we can see from the rest of the time he's playing. And I think that should be our focus. Obviously, left back and that central attacking area. And I know Coventry fans are going to come for us because O'Hare would be brilliant. O'Hare would be brilliant in that position, and I think we have to go back in. If we ever were in for him, or if I've seen rumours that we are in for him again, I think we have to go for him because that's the area. I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, this is a good question, actually, and it depends on the way you look at it. So, honestly, thank you, Andy, for this. It says, do we think if we still had the entire squad we had last season, we'd be doing much better this season? That's a tough question to answer, and the only reason I'll give my opinion on it first is because, one, you'd instantly go, yeah, piece of piss. We'd do all right. However, are we that squad that started the season that was chucking games away in the 90th minute? Or are we that team that by the end of the season was full rampant force? You know, I think another thing that we've had as well this season, we've always been Burnley under the radar. We've always been, you know, the underdog. Oh, Burnley's been promoted. They'll get relegated. Forget about them. And we've just gone about our business. This time we've come up with, oh, here's Burnley, really big bollocks, spent big in the Championship. Vincent Kompany is manager. Media, and now all of a sudden, I'm not saying our arse has fallen out because it's not. I think you can see we're getting better week by week, but it's such a tough question to answer.
I think as well, it's that sentimental feeling again. Like, you know, last season was absolutely unbelievable. Are we all not? I don't want to say it because it feels like it's taken away from it, but are we overhyping the players that we had last year because we're doing so bad this year? And, you know, the fans were behind the players last year, and every game we were winning. So, you know, Preston at home last season, now, when we're 3-0 up and Cricket Field were bouncing, Longside were bouncing, Jimmy Mack were bouncing, Bob Lord were bouncing. I hadn't seen Bob Lord bounce in my life, but they were bouncing, singing Burnley won 10 in a row. You know, everyone was behind them. This season, any little thing Trafford makes a pass that goes wayward, it feels like everyone's groaning. And I think that obviously goes down onto the players, which then obviously, you know, can affect the performance. And I think because so much has changed from last year, when we've lost Teller, we've lost, you know, we've no Benson, we've no Zarauri, those fan favourites aren't playing, so they're getting on the back, and then, you know, I think it's like the whole symbiosis and the, you know, the whole atmosphere just sort of has the impact. And I'd love to say, yeah, the team from last year had battered the team this year, but it's like you say, it's a hard question, especially as well. Just going back to how you said, you know, about is it the team from the start of last season or the team from the end of the season? You look at I think we're after the Sheffield United game, we started dropping points again towards the end of last season, and then obviously we went to Deadwood and won the league, and you know it was absolutely fantastic. But that little bit in between, we're at 2-2 against Rotherham at their place. We lost 2-1 to QPR at Turf. I think there were another 2-2 in there. You know, we weren't that rompant, smashing it team towards the end of the season. We'd taken our foot off the gas. So there were, you know, there were signs there at the time that, all right, maybe we're not going to finish seventh and get Europe next year because it's all up into this.
No, that is true. That is true. Andy again says it there. We would be a lot stronger in the Championship. You know, if what looks like inevitable would happen, but it is always going to be hard.
Like, you've got Foster, like last year in Championship. People were saying Foster weren't good enough.
I said this to everybody though. I said this about Foster. I said Foster is like our Barnes.
Yeah.
Championship, there's that bit more like he needs to do more. He needs to be more active, running around like an headless chicken, doing all that. And sometimes you don't see his full game potential. But in the Premier League, he's going to have that more time to do what he needs to do. And as soon as we got promoted and he started showing that, I was like, oh my God, I actually got something right for a change. He's a massive player for us. Massive player for us.
But you look at like where Barnes were when the team was announced against Rovers at home, right? Me and my missus were stood in Parkview and we saw that Barnes were playing and went, oh God, that we've lost it. And now you look at how Barnes is thought of just after last season. You know, we're a very fickle fan base sometimes, and how Barnes is thought of after last season for scoring 2 against them while throwing keeper in net. You know, he's up here. But when we got relegated, he was down here. No one wanted him. We didn't want him starting. And I think that's the thing with this team. You've got to give them the time. You've got to give them the chance. All right, we're near bottom at Premier League. So what? If we go down, so what? We've still got Vincent Kompany as our manager. We've still got most of these players. If some of them go, some of them go. But we'll still be there. We'll still be supporting them. So, just I think that's it. That answers your question from earlier. My thoughts on the season are just take each game as it comes and just enjoy the ride while we're here. There you are.
Definitely, definitely. Big question that I don't know whether people are taking the piss or not. In or out?
No. In.
100%.
Without a doubt. There's been no manager who take Dyche out of the equation because Dyche is just a different, he doesn't include in this. But there's been no manager who has made me enjoy going on the turf. There's been no manager where a game's finished and I've not been able to wait to go on the next game. Dyche, again, as I say, take him out of the equation because they were amazing for us. But towards the end, didn't enjoy watching the football. I just wanted us to win the game. We can lose 5-2 against Tottenham early this season. And I was still enjoying it when we had the ball. Still enjoying us passing it around. I mean, taking Wednesday out the equation because I'm not going to enjoy that. But
luckily, I'm in work, so I'll just be like, right, phone in my pocket. I'll put my phone on mute so the notifications don't go every 2 minutes.
I'll still do what I can, but if it gets to 3-0, I'm turning it off. But no, like I said, he's done things. The man won us the league at Ewood Park. Like, how can he ever be questioned for that? He won us the league at Ewood Park. Like, forget David Dunn's offside goals, forget Martin Olsen diving, forget winning the Premier. He won us the league at Ewood Park. If you want him gone in January, in his first ever season as Premier League manager, after what he did in his first proper season as a manager in England, you want him gone now. Sorry, but we're not relegated, not mathematically relegated. If Forest and Everton get this point deduction, which is looking more and more likely, there's still a chance we can stay up. Why does anyone? I think because he's succeeded Dyche, which it was always going to be a tough thing to do. I think because he succeeded Dyche. I think a lot of people have a lot of expectations. Dyche got a chance after he got relegated.
Yeah, that's what I mean. We stuck with Dyche after relegation and we got promoted. We've achieved European football. It is a risk or reward business. And I think that's what, John's comment there is exactly the same as what we're saying. If we do sack Kompany, look at teams like Watford and Norwich that have just been, hire and fire. We've never been known as that sort of club either. I mean, even from, I grew up in the 90s. So obviously I saw the Turnip days, then Cottrell. I think the only quick turnaround really that we've probably had is, Eddie Howe to Sean Dyche sort of thing. That was like a quick.
It was he left the family, which
you can't fault him for the family reasons. But even then, after that happened, that just that moment in itself, gave us one of the most amazing up and down rides that we've probably had for a long, long time.
I mean, the first season we were in the Premier League, I'm like you, I grew up on the Stan Turner and Steve Cottrell, Owen Coyle years, and that first season in the Premier League under Coyle, if he hadn't have jumped ship and buggered off to Bolton and said that they were 10 years ahead and all that crap, which I'll never forgive him for, but he relegated Blackburn, so we're equal now. But we were near the bottom. In fact, I think we were bottom of the league. We wouldn't have sacked him then because he'd got a team that weren't expected to get promoted. Fast forward, what is it now? 14 years, 13 years. And we've had European football. We've got Vincent Kompany as our manager. Vincent Kompany, the City captain who's won how many Premier Leagues? He's our manager. we've got Wilson Odobert, who's like Lionel Messi on drugs, playing for us. You know, we've got an American business owner who some people give slack, but he's there at every single game, watching every single game. We've got JJ Watt, who's representing our club in America. You know, to do something so stupid as sack a young manager who, let's not forget, 12 months ago, Belgium wanted him as their manager. They were talking of him going to Tottenham, talking of him going to Chelsea, and we've got him. Like, it just baffles me. And yeah, fair enough if we get relegated and he wants to leave. That's, you know, by the by. But we've got to give him the chance. And if we don't come back up next season, then maybe talks are had because we're in.
It goes back to that word, though, doesn't it? Project. It's a project. So no matter which way you look at it, a negative result or a good result, it's a project. It's a learning curve. Each game is, you know, you can only get better than your last. That's why we have a lot of analysis now and how we can move forward. What went wrong here? What went wrong there? We've gone are the days of a manager stood there fagging it on the touchline, you know, and telling you were shit. Go and run 3 mile and come back. I don't care if you've played 90 minutes.
Yeah.
We are so well advanced in certain areas now that football has changed. And I always felt that we had this sort of like old man's club about us. We was very much people stuck in their ways. We were very, you know, we had that northern grit, but it was the northern grit of the 80s and 60s and stuff like that.
We've still got that in the club, and that's the one thing that, you know, we've still got wooden seats in Bob Lord and Cricket Field stand.
Yeah.
Like that painted claret and blue, you know, they're not wooden claret and blue seats, they're painted claret and blue. And I think the fact that we've got that, but we're mixing it with a young, exciting manager who, again, whoever took over from Sean Dyche, it was always going to be hard. The same happened when Moyes took over at United from Fergie. It was always going to be a difficult thing. And I think if we would give that chance to Coyle at the time, or we'd give that chance to, you know, we kept Laws when we got relegated.
Yeah.
You know, we gave him the chance. We'd have given Howell the chance. We don't sack people. We're not Watford. We're not Norwich. We don't sack people because they failed. We give them that chance. And I think, like you said, it's the project. Let him have the project. And if the project fails, all right, it's not been, you know, the best 5 years, but we won the league at Ewood Park.
Exactly.
It just, like last year alone, if the next 3 years are rubbish, last year alone will make up for it because we'll come back stronger because we're Burnley.
That's the thing. That's the thing. People need to remember that. People need to remember that we still have old traditions, but with a new spin on things. And like I say, I go back to the start of this season when we played Shrewsbury, when Cotterill was still manager in pre-season, and you had some of the old guard in fans. What's he doing? Playing it from the keeper to the defender. Knock it forward, will you? What you play it out to wings? Why are you not pushing it, pumping it long all the time? And so much has changed in such a massive, massive way. Like you said, not just on the pitch, but off the pitch, things have changed drastically. But it has been needed. It's needed someone to come in, grip this club by the bollocks and say, look, the way you're going, you're going to end up on a downwards trajectory because football is adapting, football is changing. You're stuck in your old traditions. Keep certain ones, you know, keep that sort of methodical thinking going. But whatever you need to do to progress, you're going to have to tweak. And I think we've done that. And a lot of people are surprised at how fast we've done it. But in terms of on the pitch, we need obviously to try a little bit harder in, you know, getting results. It's the second half of the season. It's going to be tough. It is going to be tough. But I will hold my hand up now. I'll hold both up and say, if we're relegated, am I worried? No, because I think one, we're better equipped. Secondly, the only question I probably have is how much we've spent. Is that going to come into play with relegation? Is it going to cost us from a business perspective? Other than that, I don't really have any sort of qualms about what happens. And I think even if we don't go up at the first time of asking, it's not all doom and gloom.
No, I think if last season we hadn't come up, I think if we'd have stayed in the Championship, there would be no qualms about the fact that we didn't go up in the first season. But the fact that we did go up in the first season and now we are in the Premier League, if we go back down, we go back down. If we stay up, we stay up. Like you said, the only concern I've got is the money concern, but we've still got, Sten Benson out on loan. He smashes it up in the Championship with Leeds. They come in next season and say, come on, can we have him for 15 million? Yeah, go on then. That's 15 million of this 110 million that we've supposedly spent. That's 15 million paid back already. We got the money for going up. Alan's not thick. He's a businessman. He knows what he's doing. All right, you've got some of these that come in that are, dodgy businessmen. But he's there. He's present. You can speak to him. He's like I know you and Natalie are on the FAB, aren't you? The fan advisory board.
Yeah.
That's never happened at our club, and yet Alan Pace has brought in this thing for the fans to give their own opinion, and I think that's the thing. We're changing and we're developing, and yeah,
it's only going to get better. That's the common answer. But I do agree with Adi there. Teesdale didn't really help us. When you look back at that history, I totally agree. But supporting the Claret for over 50 years, that is some going, is that. John says there, I do worry a little bit that company might move away to rebuild his if we go down, I hope I'm wrong. But I don't reckon he will. I think company is so invested in what he's trying to achieve that unless he falls out of love with a job, I think he's one of those captains that will die by his sword. So if we go down, we go down together. It's not your fault or my fault. We're collective, and he'll be the one that builds us all back up. So,
but the players that he's brought in, like he's not brought them in on a 2-year deal or a 3-year. Like he's brought them in on 4 or 5-year deals, and even in summer, all right, it might seem strange now that we're not playing them, but Benson and Zaroury again, they got extensions. Foster's got the contract extension. I think there's been talk about Taylor getting an extension. Like he's brought them in on longer contracts, and I think if he had any intention of saying, right, I'm off, guys, see you later, leaving us in the shit, he wouldn't have brought those players in on these long contracts. And I think
totally agree.
The amount of players who we've signed who have only signed because of Vincent Kompany, like, you're not telling me that he's gone to Belgium and gone to, Collioure or something, come to this team in Northwest. He's not. They haven't come because of Burnley. They've come because of Kompany.
Yeah.
And I think he will want to stay with them as much as they'll want to stay with him.
Yep. No, 100% agree, mate. I couldn't have put it any better. We have gone over the hour mark, but when you're having top quality conversation and you just, we could speak about Burnley forever till the cows come home. It's always nice though. It's always nice to get other fans, other Burnley fans' perspective, their thoughts on situations, because it's all well and good you saying your bit, but hearing everybody else out, I think it's nice that everybody else has a voice, and we're not, some people think Benson should come in. Some people should think Cornet comes back. Some people are like, oh no, we've dropped that ship. Don't do that. But it is what it is. It is what it is. Nate's comment there says it's not the Premier League, but both the company's seasons at Anderlecht. His teams got better towards the end of the season. You could find some form still and stay up. And I think you can get that from the documentary as well. He shows how team cohesion is massive, and that the longer it goes on, the better. Andrew, thank you very much for coming on. Really do appreciate it. Again, tell people where they can find you and your stuff, and get involved with all the edits you do, because you do some amazing work, mate.
Oh, nice one, Dan. Yeah, so again, thank you for having us.
Anytime.
I'm on Facebook, Instagram, always Claret. Do graphic design, sometimes make videos. If there's a player you want a specific one of, just drop me a message and I'll do one. I'm always, sat there trying to think, who do I do next? I have to ask my missus just to give me a random player. So if there is anyone that you want me to make one of, just drop me a message, and yeah, find us on Always Claret.
Happy days, happy days. The link is in the description of this video to your Twitter page as well, so people can head there, drop you a message and stuff. The one thing I do want to end on is that, obviously, being on the fan advisory board, a lot of people would say, well, you're in a privileged position. You've got, inside information, you get the odd scoop here and there. That's not the case. That's not the case. We are a voice of reason for the fans. We were selected by the club through an interview process like you would a job. And a lot of people seem to forget that and seem to think that because you post some videos online and you sit behind a camera, that's the reason why you're there. It's not. There's people there that don't sit behind cameras. There's people of 13 years of age, people of different racial backgrounds, religions, people with disabilities and things like that. And it's such a diverse community that we all want to get every different aspect of Burnley Football Club right from each and everybody's perspective. Like I say, from the young fans of 13 wanting more options than a hot dog and a burger, to the 40-odd-year-old who can't be asked with Carlsberg anymore and wants a different option. It's all these things that come into it, and it's not just about what we say.
At the end of the day, you're still just fans, and
Yeah,
that's having a group of Burnley fans having a voice to put towards the board, and make change again. How can it be negative? I know
yeah,
that you are, it's not something you give up your spare time to go to these meetings to help develop the club. It's
yeah.
it,
The bugbear I have is that we are getting flack because we're not saying anything, pretty much. And don't get me wrong, there's things we can say, there's things we can't say. But the minutes are going to be available on the Burnley website. At the moment, they are not. I think from what we were told recently is they are being summarised, so you're not reading a 40-odd page essay, which is better for you as the person wanting to view it, and it gives you more of an understanding. Like I say, I'm not out to upset anyone or think I've got the upper hand or any other information. I'm here. If anybody's got any concerns from a fan perspective, let me know. I had someone get in touch recently speaking about ear defenders for people with autism that really like football but struggle to sit where the crowd's quite loud, and it just helps with that sort of muffled tone. That's all we want. All we want is little wins, the little wins, things like that as well. So we are trying everything. We are trying everything. It's not just these little bits. We are talking about big bits. There is talks of safe standing. There is talks of, the trajectory of the club. What does Alan see for the future? Where are we at this current moment? What's VK's thinking on next week's game? All these questions are asked. All these, and it's not just we're not just palmed off either. We're meant to feel as equal, like we are part of the club. We're not hiding any information from anybody. As I said, it's not us that don't put out the minutes. The minutes are recorded and they will be put up at some point. That's all I want to say. After tonight's barrel of abuse, apparently I'm only in it for money and fame. Where's the fame? Where's the fame? Where's the fame? Because trust me, I'm sat here with an own bargains headset on my head, and I'm speaking to a webcam that cost me about $6.99. So I'm clearly absolutely raking it in, and living the dream. However, I'm going to have to wrap this up because it is 1 hour 15 and my flight to Barbados leaves in 10 minutes. So that said, thank you very much to everybody for watching. Really do appreciate it. As I say, if you want to see more of any of the guests that we've asked on, please do give us a shout. Let us know your comments underneath. If there is any concerns that you want me to raise, drop us a message on all the socials. It's just Turf Morehouse. Got a Facebook page now. That's what we want. The one thing that hasn't changed with Burnley is we are a family club. If anything, that has got stronger. But until next time, which I'm thinking should be Tuesday now. Tuesday, maybe the next show when we have a match preview to the City game. I suppose I'm just going to let a City fan ramble on about how he's going to pop 6 or 7 past us. But like someone said earlier, if we keep it less than 5, who gives a shit? I'd rather it be less than that. How happy were we as fans when we lost 4-0? A lot happier. But until next time, take care. Thanks again, and we'll speak to you soon.